Hello, my loves. So I wanted to take a minute to talk to you guys about 5D. What 5D actually is, what it means. And to do so, we're going to talk a little bit about the number 5. Now, I always find it interesting because I've encountered multiple people on their spiritual journey, on their path of ascension, who have a unique perspective of 5D and have placed themselves in that dimension. And yet the way they communicate, the way they talk about the concept, or the way they respond to disagreement with their perspective shows a master numerologist such as myself that they actually have not yet transcended fifth dimension consciousness. So let's get into what that actually means a little bit, because this is a term that is heavily thrown around right now, heavily, and I don't see it being actually truly understood. So let's talk about it. Now, 5 is the number of the ego. It is the number of discomfort, internal or external. It is the number of karmic stagnancy as well as karmic shifts. It is the number of restriction of thought or circumstance. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the ego a little bit more and what could cause these sort of internal hindrances or discomforts. When you're talking about the ego, you are talking about the memory chip of the soul, memory chip of the mind, memory chip of the psyche. This is the part of you that carries all of those hurts that you've endured as a being. Past lives, current life, right? It's, how do I want to word this? You know, the spiritual concept of drinking from the river of forgetfulness prior to a reincarnation, right? So you don't necessarily remember from past lives your pains, but you are going to be incarnated or reincarnated into this lifetime with a certain orientation, right? A certain orientation. You might have fears of things and you don't understand why. You might behave in a certain manner and you don't know why. You might carry a sadness or a wisdom and you don't actually understand why. This is an example because your being carries these experiences. Now, with that being said, let's focus on the current lifetime as it relates to the ego, as it relates to 5. Let's say every time you share your perspective, this is an example would be the wound of spiritual persecution. This is often carried from past lives, but it is going to reestablish itself in this lifetime as well. So let's say every time you share a spiritual perspective, you are met with opposition. That's very uncomfortable. You're met with hate even. You're met with being called names like evil, demonic. This is my experience. Even though what you're saying isn't evil at all. It just conflicts with someone else's programming. That's their 5. It conflicts with their 5, right? 25 is the actual frequency that governs that sort of an interaction of discomfort and oppositional views, okay? But that is an example of that. So what is the ego going to do? The ego is going to subconsciously try to prevent you from continuing to express your views in an attempt to protect you. Now, using that as an example, I could go on and on with different examples, right? I could. Rejection wound, okay? You've been rejected in relationships, so now you're hot and cold intimately, romantically. Now you choose not to date. It is the subconscious mind, it is the ego trying to prevent a familiar pain, even if it prevents you from actually finding happiness one day. Do you understand? So then with that being said, those two examples, what is 5D and what is 5D consciousness? It's understanding that. It is knowing thyself. It is knowing thy mind. It is mastering thyself. It is mastering thy mind. It is knowing your inner child wounds, knowing your ego's orientation and what sort of behavioral or defense mechanisms it is trying to put in place to prevent you from experiencing pain again. It is working to transcend those fears. It is working to transcend any and all blockages. This needs to be done inner work wise as well as energetic work wise. Okay? It's very interesting. It is so interesting. But this is what 5D really is. So if you talk about Earth entering a state of 5D collectively, what would that look like? That would be people living their dreams. That would be people doing things fearlessly, loving each other fearlessly. That's why it would be so beneficial for the collective, because it is fears that keep us stuck in negative patterns. When we're talking about negative karmic or painful karmic patterns, we're talking about 5 issues. Do you understand? So the transcending of all hindrances, transcending of all fears and all of those lower frequency emotions is what 5D consciousness describes. With that being said, my loves, I've taught you guys about 52, 53, 54 ego responses, how to master the ego by honing your communication. So when someone comes at me claiming to have 5D consciousness or claiming to be living and existing in a 5D reality, and yet they respond to me with 52 responses, a sense of urgency, a sense of discomfort, a sense of a need to dominate me, and sending long paragraphs going on and on about how I'm wrong and how they're right and so on and so forth, I know their claims are untrue. Do you understand? So, and it's funny because everyone I've really encountered like that comes from a space of fear very often, or comes from a space of ego. And it's very interesting. But that's just because 5D, that term, is misunderstood. And what I will tell you, I am a being that possesses 8D consciousness. And I still experience 5 issues. Right? I am currently embarking on a journey, right? An 8-week journey with Jeffrey Wilson, doing vibrational healing work, because it's more than just inner work, you guys. I know every aspect of my mind. I know every aspect of my wounds. I know every aspect of all of that internally, my shadow, my persona, right? Guiding spirit influences. But energetically speaking, you have to get certain energies cleared from your field in order to truly alleviate those 5 issues. So I am still on this journey. I just finished week 1, and I have never felt more powerful or clear. I recently endured immense trauma that knocked me off the wagon. It truly did, and I can admit that. And today it's like it never happened. I am energized. I am focused. I'm tingly. So I'll keep you guys updated. Take care.